A recent report published by Prison Policy Initiative, a U.S. public policy think tank, shows that 102 federal prisons, 1,566 state prisons, 2,850 local jails, 1,510 juvenile correction facilities, 196 immigration detention facilities, and 82 Indian country jails, as well as military prisons in the U.S. are holding almost 2 million people. Do you have any comment?
我追到了相关的报道。
I've noted relevant reports. With less than 5% of the world's total population, the U.S. locks up a quarter of the world's total incarcerated population. It is the country with the highest incarceration rate and largest number of inmates. To quote an American historian, Robin Kelley, the U.S. has been driven into a carceral state. I have also noted that by the end of 2019, over 100,000 people are detained in private prisons. Many public prisons are privatized, and people are raking in huge benefit from it. This is a rare phenomenon in the world, and it has become a headache and stain in the U.S. human rights condition. Private prisons in the U.S. are a product of collusion between power and capital. From the 1980s, the U.S. government, in the name of reducing incarceration burden and cutting the cost of imprisonment, have incorporated private prisons into its national correction system. The responsibility that should have been borne by the government is shifted onto interest groups. Driven by huge profits, private prisons expanded rapidly. Their total number increased by 16-fold in the 20 years following 1990. Over 30 states in the U.S. have partnership with private prisons. Interest groups such as private prisons have long been using political donations, lobbying, and powerful money deals to swing political agenda and penal policies in the U.S. By increasing the prison population and extending their term of imprisonment, they have reaped huge benefit. Private prisons is a typical example of forced labor in flagrant violation of human rights. According to data, violent incidents in private prisons happen 65% more likely than in other countries. And prisoners there face the threat of violence, sexual abuse, restricted access to medical service, and abnormal death. They are subject to intensive, low-pay forced labor for long periods of time. The human rights violations in the U.S. private prisons are rooted in the institutional problems of the U.S. The U.S. clamors for democracy and human rights, but actually is letting power and capital override justice and fairness. It should reflect on itself, treat its own units, instead of fantasizing about lecturing other countries on human rights.